Hi there. Let's take a deep dive into one of the most persistent myths out there. The idea that gender-related behaviors are natural instincts. You've heard it before. Men are naturally aggressive, women are naturally nurturing, and don't even get me started on the whole men are from Mars, women are from Venus nonsense. But what if I told you that the only real natural instinct we have as humans is survival? Yep, eat, sleep, don't get eaten by a predator, basic stuff. So, where did all these gender myths come from? And why do we keep believing them? Buckle up, because we're about to unravel this tangled mess of culture, history, and science. First, let's talk about where these myths originate. Spoiler alert, it's not biology. Sure, there are some biological differences between men and women, but the idea that these differences dictate behavior is, well, a stretch. Take the myth that men are naturally better at math. Studies have shown that there's no significant difference in mathematical ability between genders. It's all about how we're socialized. Girls are often discouraged from pursuing STEM fields, while boys are pushed toward them. It's not nature, it's nurture. And then there's the whole men are hunters, women are gatherers narrative. Sounds logical, right? Except that archaeological evidence suggests prehistoric women were out there hunting mammoths right alongside men. In fact, some of the most skilled hunters in certain societies were women. So much for that natural division of labor. But here's where it gets really interesting. These myths aren't just harmless stereotypes. They have real-world consequences. When we believe that certain behaviors are just the way things are, we stop questioning them. We limit opportunities for people based on outdated ideas about gender. And that's not just unfair, it's downright counterproductive. Let's get into the nitty-gritty of biology. Yes, there are differences between male and female bodies. Men tend to have more muscle mass. Women tend to have a higher percentage of body fat. But does that mean men are naturally better at sports? Not so fast. Studies show that when women are given the same training and opportunities as men, they perform just as well, if not better, in many athletic disciplines. And what about hormones? Testosterone is often blamed for male aggression, but the reality is far more complicated. Testosterone doesn't cause aggression. It can amplify existing behaviors. And guess what? Women also produce testosterone just in smaller amounts. Similarly, estrogen isn't the nurturing hormone it's often made out to be. Both men and women produce estrogen, and its effects on behavior are far from straightforward. The truth is, biology is messy. It doesn't fit neatly into the boxes we've created for it. And when we try to force it into those boxes, we end up with myths that don't hold up under scrutiny. Now let's take a trip back in time. The idea that gender roles are natural has been around for centuries, but it hasn't always looked the same. In ancient societies, gender roles were often more fluid. For example, in some Native American cultures, two-spirit individuals were recognized as having both male and female spirits, and often held important roles in their communities. Fast forward to the Victorian era, and you'll find the rise of the separate spheres ideology. Men were supposed to be the breadwinners, out in the world doing important man things, while women were confined to the home, where they were expected to be nurturing, submissive, and above all, pure. This ideology wasn't based on biology. It was based on maintaining social order and keeping women in their place. And let's not forget the role of religion in perpetuating these myths. Many religious texts have been interpreted, or misinterpreted, to justify gender inequality. But here's the thing. These interpretations often say more about the culture they come from than they do about any divine truth. Now let's talk about the role of media in shaping our perceptions of gender. From fairy tales to blockbuster movies, we're bombarded with messages about what it means to be a real man or a real woman. Men are strong, stoic, and in control. Women are delicate, emotional, and in need of rescuing. But here's the kicker. These stereotypes aren't just harmless entertainment. They shape the way we see ourselves and others. They influence the career paths we choose, the way we raise our children, and even the way we vote. And when we internalize these stereotypes, we limit our potential, and the potential of those around us. Take the damsel in distress trope, for example. It's been around for centuries, but it's not based on any biological truth. It's a cultural construct, one that reinforces the idea that women are weak and need men to save them. And while we've made progress in challenging this trope, it's still alive and well in many forms of media. So why does all of this matter? Because these myths have real-world consequences. For example, the belief that women are naturally better at caregiving has led to a lack of support for men who want to take on caregiving roles. It's also contributed to the gender pay gap, as caregiving professions are often undervalued and underpaid. Similarly, the belief that men are naturally aggressive has been used to justify everything from toxic masculinity to domestic violence. But the truth is, Aggression isn't a male trait, it's a human trait. And when we label it as masculine, we let men off the hook for their behavior, while denying women the right to express anger or assertiveness. So what's the takeaway? First, let's stop pretending that gender roles are written in our DNA. They're not. They're shaped by culture, history, and a whole lot of societal pressure. Second, let's challenge these myths whenever we encounter them. If someone tells you that boys don't cry, or girls can't be leaders, remind them that the only thing natural here is their instinct to survive. And maybe their instinct to spout nonsense. And finally, let's work toward a world where people are free to be themselves, regardless of gender. That means supporting policies that promote gender equality, like paid parental leave and equal pay for equal work. It also means challenging stereotypes in our everyday lives, whether that's by encouraging boys to play with dolls or girls to pursue careers in STEM. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the world of gender myths, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to the Debunkers, and drop a comment telling us what gender myth drives you nuts. Let's keep this conversation going, because survival of the fittest doesn't mean survival of the most stereotypical.
Have a great one. Thanks for watching the Debunkers channel.